HowExpert! Top 10 World War II Facts. HowExpert publishes quick how-to guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit HowExpert.com to learn more. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more HowExpert Top 10 videos in the future. Moving on, let's talk about the HowExpert Top 10 World War II Facts. Number 10. Industry. The soldiers wouldn't have been going on without the production from the workers. Workers across the world would produce so much industry during the war. Just to give numbers, over 8 million guns, over 5 million vehicles, almost 1 million aircraft, as well as 7 billion tons of coal, over 1 billion tons of oil, 6 million tons of aluminum would be shipped and used to function the ultimate turnout of World War II. Number 9. World War II wasn't 6 years long, or was it? In the West, we are told that World War II lasted from September 1st, 1939 to September 2nd, 1945, 6 years and 1 day. Many historians disagree on these dates, particularly the start date. September 1st, 1939 was the day Germany invaded Poland, which would cause the British and French to declare war 2 days later. September 2nd, 1945, Japan formally surrendered. Many don't agree on dates, such as why include the end of World War II to be the Asian Pacific Theater end, but the start of the conflict being the beginning of the European theater, while the Asian theater started way earlier. The Second Sino-Japanese War officially started in July 7, 1937, during the Marco Polo Bridge incident. Pearl Harbor is another debatable date, since that's when the United States got involved and was the first country to officially be at war with Japan and Germany. July 7th, September 1st, December 7th, there is no clear answer. Number 8. The largest invasion of all time. Operation Barbarossa, to this day, is the largest land invasion in human history. June 22nd, 1941. Hitler launched his long-awaited hate campaign against what he called Judeo-Marxist East. Arguably the two most evil people in history, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, at war. What had been long-built tension between two opposing political views had become the greatest land invasion, with over 3 million Germans were sent into the USSR. Over 4,000 planes and tanks, over 500,000 horses and automobiles. This bloody front would become the bloodiest front for the bloodiest war in human history. Number 7. Stalingrad, deadliest battle of all time. Stalingrad is one of the most famous battles to ever take place in human history. Many historians generally agree that Stalingrad was the deadliest battle of all time, with over 600,000 Axis casualties and 1.1 million Soviet casualties. This event contends against DDay and others to be the turning point of the war in Europe. Number 6. Most leaders at war were dead before it ended. Most of the main nations at war had their leaders dead by the end of the war. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain resigned after the fall of Denmark and Norway in 1940. Chamberlain would die later that year, never knowing how the war he declared would become. Leaders of Japan, Fumimaro Konoe and Hideki Tojo, among others, died after being found guilty of war crimes, as well as Romanian, Hungarian, and Bulgarian leaders would die from execution or natural causes. US President Roosevelt would suddenly die in April 1945, just weeks before Mussolini of Italy got killed and Hitler of Germany committed suicide. Hitler's next in line would simultaneously commit suicide, and his next in line would commit suicide before being executed. Number 5. The Forgotten Belligerent. Nokia, heavy metal music, Santa Claus, one of the happiest countries in the world, yet one of the most depressed. A main country who fought in World War II that everyone seems to forget about. Finland. The USSR invaded Finland in 1939's Winter War, apart from the German-Polish conflict. After fighting hard and giving Stalin a hard time, Finland couldn't hold back the swarm of Reds. they were forced to give up 11% of their territory. Germany got into the war with the USSR 2 years later in Operation Barbarossa. Finland, though not an official Axis power, would cooperate with the Germans in their conquest of Russia. They would be a great player in the biggest siege in human history, the Siege of Leningrad. Finland would still end up losing near the end of the war and would have to pay the Soviet Union war reparations. Number 4. Future leaders acquire fame. Though many leaders were dead before the war was over, or soon after it, many war heroes would gain their fame from war and would later become leaders. Dwight D. Eisenhower is known to lead the United States and the Western Allies into the final defeat of Hitler after the Normandy landings, whom would then become president. Other figures like Douglas MacArthur, who led the Americans in the Pacific Theater, would eventually become the general assigned to fight in Korea in 1950 under the UN, and then be terminated. Future Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev was a high-ranking war leader in the Soviet Union, helped push the Germans back out of the motherland. Others, such as China's Mao Zedong and Yugoslavia's Josip Broz Tito, would also become powerful figures which would shape the rest of the 20th century. Number 3. Siege of Leningrad. World War II seems to have had the biggest ever in a lot of categories. Another would include the largest siege ever of Leningrad. Germany would entrap the city of Leningrad with their co-belligerent Finland. Millions of people would starve, over 3 million casualties on the Soviet side. Supplies were near impossible to get in, that they would have to wait for lakes to freeze over to deliver supplies and evacuate civilians. Soviet generals would generally repel and kick the Germans and Finnish away from the city. Destroyed like the rest of the continent, they kept fighting on. Number 2. D-Day was a relatively small battle. June 6, 1944 has been portrayed in the media, culture, and American schools as an almost holy-like day. Though D-Day's significance was vital to the end of the war and the foundation of the Cold War, its relative casualty count was low compared to other battles portrayed at the same level. In one day, the Allies had 10,000 casualties, and the Germans had 1,000. 11,000 casualties may seem like a lot, which it is, but compared to the other significant battles like Stalingrad, not so much. Stalingrad had, on average, over 19,000 deaths per day during the hard 5 months. Not taking away the significance of the battle, its media attention to English speakers in 1944 helped shape its modern remembrance. Number 1. Master, War, Famine to Master. Burma was under British colonial rule and was already under malnourished conditions. In 1941 and 1942, it seemed imminent Burma would be invaded by the Japanese. The British did a scorched earth retreat into India, destroying the resources in Burma. The Japanese would eventually come and take rule of Burma from the British. The ensuing result would involve 500,000 Burmese fleeing to India. Another 2 to 3 million would die due to the famine and rampant disease that would come in the next year. Burma wouldn't recover for decades and would struggle under foreign rule for coming times. If you liked our video, be sure to click like and subscribe for more HowExpert Top 10 videos for all topics from A to Z in the future. Also, let us know what other topics that you want us to do a HowExpert Top 10 video in the future in the comments below. Thank you, have an amazing day, and take care. HowExpert publishes quick how-to guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit howexpert.com to learn more.